Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, depending on where you're from. My name is Anastasia Holdren, and thank you so much for being with me here today. Today we're going to talk about 10 of the most common mistakes that I see brand new AdWords advertisers make, and not only how to avoid them, but also how they can impact you negatively, so why they're actually important. Just to give you a little bit of a quick download on me, I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been here for about 12 years. I'm originally from the Boston area, and I have been teaching advertisers how to use Google AdWords since 2006. I am a seminar leader for Google, so I've been teaching these classes all around the world, showing people how to get started and get the right foundation for their AdWords accounts. And of course, I have my own pay-per-click clients, and I manage AdWords accounts for them. So that's a little bit of who I am and who I'm not. And so let's start going through some of the top mistakes. All right. So the number one mistake that I see hands down in almost every single AdWords account that I take a look at is a lack of structure. And if you don't have the proper structure for your account, no matter what you're going to do, chances are you will not succeed with AdWords. The way this works is Google is going to actually look at a few factors. They're going to see how closely the words that somebody searched for, their search query, matches the keywords that you have selected, and then matches the ad text that you show, and then the ratio of how many times somebody actually clicks on it. So what this means to you is, let's say that we are advertising for, let's pick an example. Let's say that we're selling fish because the cover of my book has a fish on it. And so if you are a pet store and you have 10,000 kinds of fish that you're going to sell, and if you didn't have a structure in your account, you might put all 10,000 of the names of the fish into a single ad group in your AdWords account. And then your ad would read something like, Stasia's Pet Store, we have 10,000 kinds of fish for you to choose from. And so if I was doing a very specific search, for example, looking for a spotted goby, which is a variety of fish, then I would just see a generic ad that this particular advertiser had 10,000 kinds of fish. So what ends up happening is that people, when they do a search, they're looking for the most relevant, the most specific results that acts as a trigger. That lets them know that this particular advertiser has what they're looking for. And if I'm doing a search for a spotted goby and I don't see that in the text of the ad, there's a really good chance I'm not going to click on it. And without that with the lack of structure, without a structure to my account, there's no way that I can assign a specific ad to that specific keyword. So that's why we need to start thinking in a sense of ad groups. So let's go back to our pet store example, that you have 10,000 kinds of fish and you want to put a structure in your account. You could have a single campaign, and that campaign would control things like your budget and the language that your ads would appear in and where in the world your ads can appear. But then within that campaign, you're going to want to focus on ad groups. And each ad group would be focused on a particular theme. And your theme might be the spotted goby, it might be goldfish, it might be betas, it might be every kind of fish that you're then going to sell through your store. And now your advantage is that if the theme of this ad group is spotted goby, all of the keywords in that group are about spotted goby, which is going to make it more relevant. And Google, the AdWords system, is going to say, hey, this advertiser has done a better job. All of these words are about this particular theme. And then your ad text that corresponds with that ad group can be all about spotted gobies. And so then again, AdWords is going to say, hey, that ad text is relevant to this keyword, which is relevant to this search query. And then when someone's doing that specific search, you are going to get something usually called a higher quality score. So what is quality score and why is it important? It's one of the most important numbers in AdWords. It is basically a score that Google is going to assign to each of your keywords. And the higher the quality score that you have for that keyword, the better chance you have of actually winning an opportunity to show your ad. Now, for anybody who's brand new to AdWords, AdWords is an auction-based system. And so basically what's happening is that every advertiser is competing against each other for an opportunity to show an ad when somebody does a search. So let's say that there are 50 people who want to show ads when somebody searches for spotted goby. So you're competing against those 50 people to get your ad to show higher at the top. So if you have a structure, and using that structure you've written a specific ad with a specific set of keywords, and you're able to show a very relevant ad for that search, Google's going to say, okay, we're going to give this advertiser a higher score because they've done a better job basically presenting a useful result to that particular searcher. Because it's in Google's best interest to be able to deliver the most relevant results, both organically and from a paid perspective, for every single search, because they don't want people to start looking on different search engines to find more relevant results. Anyway, so you'll get a higher quality score from a relevancy standpoint. You'll also get a higher quality score usually from something called a click-through rate. So a click-through rate is basically the ratio of how many times an ad is displayed versus how many times it's clicked. And it's how Google makes money. The higher the click-through rate means the more frequently that ad is clicked on, which means that Google can then charge the advertiser for that click. It is also a measurement of the usefulness. So basically, if people see an ad and it resonates with them, they're probably going to click on it. And so Google uses that as a very important factor in figuring out what your quality score is going to be. And you won't get that high click-through rate if you don't show a relevant ad. And you can't show a relevant ad if your account doesn't have structure. So you can see how this all comes into play. So what I would suggest for new advertisers who are just beginning, what you want to do is take a look at your business and then figure out how you can best organize the products and services that you're selling by themes. So let's say that you are a service provider. I'd like to use the HVAC repair example. And so what you'd say, okay, I have different types of services. I fix air conditioners and I fix heating units and I change vents and I do vent cleaning or duct cleaning. And all of these things are services that your one company provides, but from a keyword perspective, they're different. If somebody is searching to fix their air conditioner, that's different than somebody searching to fix their heating unit. And what you'll do is you will create separate ad groups for each of these themes. And then for each of these themes, you can pick more specific keywords and write a more specific ad, which will then get you a higher quality score and then give you a better opportunity to win the AdWords auction and show your ad. So at the end of the day, if we don't really pay close attention to structure, there's nothing else. Everything else that we do is going to be minimized or at a waste. If you have an existing AdWords account, for those people who are joining us who inherited an account or set this up before they read through it, what you might be looking at is a single campaign with a single ad group with thousands, hundreds or thousands of keywords in them, all talking about different things, and this can be a bit daunting. So what you might want to do is just take a step back, and then I'm old-fashioned. I use a notebook, pen and paper, and then I just start jotting down all of the themes that I can identify from that particular set of keywords. And then I sort of come up with my game plan on how I want to reorganize things within the account. Then once you have an idea of how your account should be structured, then you'll begin creating additional ad groups for all of these themes and then moving the keywords into their corresponding theme and then writing ad text that's very specific to that. This is a process. You're never going to be 100% done with this. I am constantly tweaking client accounts and building additional ad groups and fine-tuning. So it's with anything that we're going to talk about today, it's never you're just done and that's the end of it. so you can constantly make improvements. If you are looking at a really large account and you have, hundreds or thousands of keywords to work with, there's a tool that I highly suggest that will help you do this process far more efficiently. It's called the AdWords editor. It's a free tool. It is available in your AdWords account. If you go to the and they just renamed this tab, the Tools and Analysis tab, and then you go down and you find the AdWords editor link, you'll be able to actually, go and you install this piece of software. And so this piece of software allows you to manage your AdWords account offline, and it makes it so much faster to do that. So that is a really handy tool to do that. And again, it's called the AdWords editor. You can also just search for it externally if you just do a search for AdWords editor. It is a piece of software that you do have to download and install on your computer. It works for both Macs and PCs, and it's the fastest way for you to then build up that structure within your account. Okay, so that is the number one mistake, lack of structure. Now, the second most common mistake that I see from advertisers is having really generic keywords. A lot of people think that, okay, I set up my AdWords account, I'm done, I put in 5 or 10 keywords that are relevant to me, and now I can sit back and relax. In fact, your keyword list is never done. And the most common mistake is that the words that you have are just really too generic for what it is that you're advertising. It would be the keyword tropical fish, and when in fact you sold 10,000 varieties of very specific kinds of fish. So this is a concept that we call long tail versus short tail keywords. A long tail keyword is very, very specific. It might be spotted goby male in Nashville, Tennessee. So that tells you that this advertiser has male spotted goby fish for sale in Nashville, Tennessee. That's a very, very specific search, and it's not likely to get a whole lot of traffic. But if you have a store in Nashville, Tennessee that sells the male spotted goby, you've got a really good chance of actually making that sale, because you know based on that search that that's what that person is looking for. That's what that person wants. So as an AdWords advertiser, you're trying to find that happy balance between a keyword that is so specific, so long tail that it doesn't get any search volume, versus a keyword that's too generic. The keyword fish. I mean, what does that person want? You can come up with 50 different ideas. It could be a fish recipe. It could be a visit to an aquarium. We don't know what that person wants at that point. So you want to find that happy balance in between that helps you be fairly certain that what the person who's making this search is a potential customer for you. Another problem that I see going along on the generic keyword theme is that a lot of new advertisers don't understand the concept of a keyword match type. The default match type in Google AdWords is something called the broad match keyword. And the broad match keyword is it gives the algorithm a lot of leeway to display your ads on related searches. So for example, if somebody did a search, if your keyword was, fish as an example of what not to do, and then somebody did a search for let's say alternative band as an example, the algorithm could be like, oh, well, fish is an alternative band, even though in fact I'm looking for a pet fish and not the band fish. But I'm giving you sort of an extreme example to show you just how far the algorithm could actually stretch the intent. So you really want to start to focus in many cases, on using specific match types. You can actually make the keywords more restrictive. You can tell Google, no, you can't show my ad when anything that is remotely related to a fish is searched for. You can only show my ad when somebody includes this word or phrase as part of their search query. You can even make it more specific, like saying it has to be exactly what this search is. Now, if you used an exact match, that's what it's called, and you said you can only show my ad when somebody searches for spotted goby in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, that's really, really specific as an exact keyword, and the likelihood of you actually getting any searches on something that's specific is unlikely. So you need to find, again, that happy balance between how much onus do I want to put on the searcher to actually type in the keywords that I'm bidding on versus a keyword that's so generic that you would end up wasting a lot of money. Another thing that I find with new advertisers is that they set up their AdWords account, and again, they put in their few keywords and they're done, and they never revisit this keyword list. You're never done with your keyword research. That's one of the pieces that's constant and will continually change. The handiest or the easiest tool to use to start this research is Google's keyword tool. It's built right into your account. And what you can do is you can enter words and phrases in different websites to get ideas about how people are actually doing searches and then add them into your list. There are also lots of third-party tools that I like. You can look at Word Tracker. You can look at Microsoft's tools for keyword research. But basically, you're going to take every opportunity to figure out how people might be potentially searching for your products, your services, your organization, and adding that into your list or creating new ad groups when you come up with new themes. Okay, so that talks about generic keywords. And going along with that theme, the next mistake that I see is a lack of negative keywords. Now, negative keywords are different than positive keywords. You add them to your list. AdWords now within your account, they've separated where negative keywords appear. They used to be mixed into your main list, but now they have this separated at the bottom in a negative keyword section. And a negative keyword operates by preventing your ad from displaying when it is included as part of the search query. For anybody who's really new, a search query is what somebody types into Google. They go to google.com, they type in a word or a phrase, and that's the search query. You as an AdWords advertiser are going to be bidding on those words or words that are related to them. So let's just say, let's go back to our aquarium example, that you sell spotted gobies but you don't sell goldfish. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that the AdWords system never displays an ad for your account when somebody does a search for goldfish, because that's not what you sell. So what you can do here is you can add negative goldfish into your list. And that's going to save you money, because otherwise, particularly with broad match keywords, the AdWords system is going to say, okay, well, a spotted goby is a fish and a goldfish is a fish, so maybe this person, this searcher, would benefit from your ad as well. So your negative keyword list, again, will never be done. This is one of the things where you'll constantly be, as things change, you'll be adding new keywords. One of my favorite examples was a small business owner that I actually met, and she has a business that sells things like swimming pools and pool tables and jacuzzis and spas and hot tubs and things like that. And she saw that there had been a rather significant spike in traffic in 2010, and she didn't know what the reason was. And then she went back into her reports, and she figured out that the movie The Hot Tub Time Machine had come out. And she did not have the negative keyword time machine in her list. She sells hot tubs. So she was actually getting a lot of irrelevant impressions and clicks on her ads for her hot tubs during that period of time, and she wasn't selling more. So this is going to change over time, and you have to monitor what's actually happening and build this negative keyword list. Now, in the last slide, I mentioned Google's keyword tool as a way for you to build your list. I would also encourage you to use it in the opposite way. Put in words that are related to your business, and when Google gives you a list of results, there are up to 800 of them, you'll see lots of words and phrases that are not a good fit for you. And so this is not a waste of your time, because anything that is not an appropriate fit is a good candidate for a negative keyword. So always be thinking in both directions, words that I want to add and also words that I want to remove from my account, and you'll never be done. All right, let's talk about the next one, awful ads. So one of the things that I see, particularly with brand new advertisers, they're all excited about AdWords, and they hate writing ads. I joke about it in my class where I tell people that this is my mass exodus section, because lots of people, when it's time comes down to actually writing an ad, suddenly have to use the ladies' room or suddenly have to take a phone call because a lot of people hate doing this. Now, an AdWords ad, a text ad, is basically 4 lines. You've got a headline, you've got 2 description lines, and then you have your display URL. So it's not a whole lot to work with. It's 130 characters, including your URL. So it's not a whole lot of work, but it makes it harder to actually write a good ad in that amount of space. So there's some best practices that you can keep in mind here. Let's start with your don'ts, which are at the bottom. The most common things I see people misspell things are in their grammar. And by the way, that's a joke for anybody who's catching that. If you have bad grammar and you misspell your words, it generally makes your ad seem less professional. Now, I have degrees in English literature and journalism, and I still misspell things that I write myself. So the point being that even if you are a fantastic writer and editor, it's always a good idea to get a fresh pair of eyes to actually look at the ads that you're producing and then before you send them live. So call on your colleagues, your employees to help you with that piece and just make sure that you're not putting something out there that you don't mean to. And Google also has a rather large list of editorial guidelines. And so if you violate an editorial guideline, what usually happens is that if Google catches it, they will then disapprove the ad, and they'll shoot you a notification that says, hey, your ads have been disapproved and you need to go in and fix them. And that in and of itself, occasionally having an ad disapproved isn't an awful thing for your account, but you don't want to be continually getting disapproved ads, because then you're kind of on the list. All right, this account is, a repeat offender for violating ads. So I would take a look at Google's guidelines before you go out and start advertising, and many of them are common sense topics that you can't advertise about. So you've got your prohibited topics like prostitution and the sale of drug paraphernalia, all that kind of stuff. And then you have some other guidelines that maybe not as clear. Things like you have to be careful using superlatives, and if you do, it has to be referenced by some really authoritative third party. That if you are, in fact, the best aquarium store in Nashville, Tennessee, well, says who? Maybe that's the Tennessean. It can't be your mother. It can't be a happy customer. It has to be that, that they were voted #1 by Nashville's reader poll or something like that. You also have to be careful with things like excess punctuation. You're not allowed to write in texting language, things like that. So I would take a look at those guidelines before you get started writing your ads. Now, things that you want to do. Again, going back to the very first mistake that I mentioned with the lack of structure, structure is so important. And now, assuming you have it, you have an opportunity to write an ad that is tightly focused on the theme of that ad group. So if the ad theme is the spotted goby fish, make sure that you use that word or that phrase in your actual text. So I do a search for a spotted goby, and voila, I see that preferably in the headline of that ad. That tells me, okay, this ad is all about the spotted goby, which is what I'm looking for. Another nice bonus is that Google will then automatically bold those words that are presented to that searcher, which helps it stand out, which helps it get a higher click-through rate, which helps it get a higher quality score and improves your chances of actually getting your ad to show higher on the search results page. So there are all these benefits that just start kind of compounding on top of each other when you start applying all of these best practices. Another thing that I tell people in my classes, and I'm really truly shocked at how well this works, is adding a call to action. If you one way to think about this is say, okay, well, what am I trying to do with this ad? Am I trying to sell fish? Am I trying to get somebody to call us and schedule an appointment? Am I trying to get somebody to buy this product through my website? Figure out what it is that you want to happen, and then use that as your call to action in your ad text. Maybe it's a time-sensitive offer that you want to sort of build up the idea, that, okay, this is a limited opportunity. So push them to do whatever that desired outcome is of your entire campaign, and it really does help. It happens far more often, and it encourages people to make that click. And again, your focus, which is going back to using the keywords in your ad text, and sell yourself. Really take a look at what you're writing. Another mistake that I see, it's not really a mistake, it's just, you're not necessarily helping yourself, is when you write an ad and your ad reads the exact same as every other advertiser on that page. You sell a bracelet or a fish or a service, and why should I choose your business over the other 9 advertisers on the page? So you have to try to figure out, well, what's going to make my business more compelling than all of the others? And you don't know what that's going to be offhand. You need to experiment with this. Try different conversion incentives, different offers. Maybe it's a promotional code. Maybe it's a coupon. Maybe it's a free shipping. Maybe it's first visits free. But figure out what might resonate with your potential customers and experiment with that in your ad text to see if that improves performance. All right. Mistake number 5, crappy landing pages. And this is another one that I see in most new accounts. It's actually not necessarily even a bad landing page. It's just that everybody writes ads and sends all of the visitors to the home page. And if I do that, if I have 10,000 kinds of fish that I sell on this website, and I send every single searcher to my home page, what I'm asking them to do at that point is to take another action. I'm asking them to either search that website, or I'm asking them to try to dig through that navigation to find the particular product or service that I'm actually looking for. And Internet users in general, they're pretty darn lazy. That's just what happens. They do a search, they might click on an ad, and if they don't see what they're looking for, they leave, because that one extra second that it would take them to search is definitely far too inconvenient for them. So they leave, and then you pay for that click on the ad, and you lose that sale. So what you want to start thinking is theme by theme, going back to the number 1, to that structure theme. Think about, okay, how am I structuring my AdWords account? And then corresponding with that, which pages on my website are the best fit for that particular theme? Now, you may find that when you are creating your AdWords campaign that you don't have a very good page for this particular theme. Lots of AdWords advertisers actually create specific landing pages just associated with an ad group for AdWords that really helps kind of drive home the sale for that particular topic. So maybe you don't have a spotted goby page yet, but now what you do for an AdWords, from an AdWords perspective, is you would make a sell page for it. And it might have information about the care, and it might have pictures of children, looking at their beautiful new pets, and it might have customer testimonials and an easy way to buy. But it's really an encapsulated sell page that makes it very efficient for that person to say, aha, this advertiser has exactly what I want, and it's so easy for me to get all of the information that I need. And look, if I click right here, I can buy it, and it's done. So you want to make it as quick and easy and painless for these people to go in and complete whatever the desired outcome of your AdWords campaign may be. If you want someone to call you, make the phone number front and center. If you want somebody to fill out a form, put it right there at the top and make it, a very simple form. Don't have 15 required fields in that particular page. So the more attention you pay to making this conversion process simple, the better results you're going to have from your AdWords campaign. So think about what you want to happen. think about what your theme is and how those keywords tie into it, and then either identify or create a page on your site that best fits that theme. Okay, let's talk about the grave mistake number 6, a lack of testing. And again, you have lots of new advertisers who go in and they create their AdWords accounts. Now, the reality is when you create an AdWords account, you can literally be up and running in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes or less. What do? You put in some billing information, you create a campaign, you create an ad group with a couple of keywords, and you write some ad text, and you're done. And you launch it, and then you think, voila, I have set up AdWords and I'm off to the races. But what you're missing at that point is the opportunity to use some of the built-in tools to figure out where you can make improvements. And even accounts that perform really well often can stand to have great improvements. One of my accounts, I thought we were doing really well. We had about an average of an 8% conversion rate across the campaigns. And then by using some testing, we're actually up to 22%, which is crazy good. I'm very excited about that. But if I had just been content with my original 8%, we never would have got there. So the moral here is you should always be testing, even things that you think are doing fairly well in and of themselves. So AdWords gives us lots of different ways to do this. The first thing I'm going to mention is the concept of split testing. You can split test your ads. Now, again, going back to mistake number 1 with your structure, now let's assume we've fixed that. We have campaigns with really specific ad groups within them that are all tightly focused on themes. So we have an ad group that's all about spotted gobies, and we have keywords in there about that particular type of fish, and we're going to write an ad for that. So what you can do now is you can actually write another version of an ad for that one ad group. And AdWords will then stagger the delivery of those ads. And over time, you'll actually be able to see, as you get traffic, which variation of the ad is performing better or worse than the other. And I've been in the industry for 15 years now, and I would like to be able to tell everybody that I can immediately identify which ad variation is better than the other. I can't. Nobody can. And so the only way to actually prove that this version is better is to run this test. And it's very simple to do that from within your ad group. Now, you can set up as many versions of your ad text as you want. It's just going to be a matter of how much traffic these keywords get. So for advertisers that may not have thousands of clicks on their ads a day, you probably want to just start with 2. Run 2 variations of an ad against each other and then see what happens. And then eventually you'll be able to see, is one of the variations of these ads significantly better than the other? Then pause or delete the loser and then start the experiment again. And you can continually test your ad created to see which one's going to do better for your audience. Now, there are a couple of other ways to run tests within accounts that I'm going to mention here. One is actually a way to run a test via the Opportunities tab. So within your account, if you go to the Opportunities tab, there's a section called Ideas. And Ideas is an automated feature that Google will basically refresh about every 14 days. And the system will look at what's happened in the last 14 days and then make a series of suggestions. The suggestions include changing your bids or adding these keywords, things like that. Now, the first thing to warn you all about is, and I met somebody recently who did this, they added every single suggestion that they saw from the Ideas tab. That's a big mistake. This is automated. This is done by an algorithm, and it is not looking at your particular business. In fact, for many of the clients that I work with, the Ideas usually just give me a longer list of potential negative keywords to add into the account. Sometimes the words are useful for me, though, and I will add them in. So there is the ability to actually run a test on these ideas. So what you can do is you can say, all right, I'm going to pick these 15 keywords out of the 100 that Google suggests to add into my account, And then before you save it, at the very bottom, there's a little checkbox that allows you to save it as an experiment. And then Google, for the next 30 days, will run that as a split test on 50% of the traffic that comes in. And you can see if those suggestions are working for you or not. So that's another quick and easy way to start your experimentation process. There's a more full-blown way to do this, and that's called an AdWords campaign experiment, or ACE. And this is accessed at the campaign level from the Settings tab. And it's at the very bottom, and it allows you to basically pick a percentage of your traffic and say, okay, I'm going to test some different things on this amount of my traffic. I'm going to test new ad groups or different sets of keywords or new ad creative or different bids. But it's going to give you a lot more flexibility to pick what you actually want to test over that period of time. And it's fairly easy to set up. You can identify it in the account because it actually will, or parts of the experiment, because what you set up as part of the ACE experiment will be labeled with a little green beaker icon, similar to the mad scientist in the picture, unlike the green dot, which is your standard component of your AdWords account. So that's another way to get up and running with testing. It's called AdWords Campaign Experiments. And you have the option to then apply the changes or delete the changes or whatever you were testing in the account based on the reports that you will then see. That's pretty handy. And the last one that I'm going to mention as far as testing is one of my favorites, and this is going back to that landing page that we just talked about. There is a tool called Website Optimizer. It's actually built off of the Google Analytics backbone. It is free, and you can access it again from your Tools and Analysis tab. And it allows you to basically split test different landing pages. So Website Optimizer will divide traffic evenly, coming in over all traffic sources, not just AdWords, and it will show your people who click on your ads this version of the landing pages versus version B. And then the system will track which version of your landing page actually resulted in more conversions or desired actions. So it's a really cool feature for anybody who's interested in optimizing the landing pages of their website. And again, it's a free tool. You can learn more about it by visiting Google's Help Center and doing a search on Website Optimizer. But that would be, it's a little more advanced for, it wouldn't be what a newbie advertiser would start with. But once you're up and comfortable with it, you know, the next step is actually working on your website. One thing that I tell people at my classes is that we can have a really great AdWords account. We can have extremely high click-through rate. We can have really compelling ads, good keyword lists. But at the end of the day, if the website isn't up to the task of actually completing that sale, this is pretty much all for nothing. And that's where I see, particularly with a lot of small businesses, fall short, where they may not have the resources. They haven't assigned the resources to make a really compelling website. So the optimizer can help you at least figure out what's working or what can work better for you. Okay, let's talk about big mistake number 7, accountability. And this is, again, I guess I have a lot of number 1 mistakes. I have met I won't say thousands, I'd say I will literally have met hundreds of business owners who are using Google AdWords who hold it to absolutely no accountability. They are not tracking anything. They spend hundreds, even thousands of dollars a month with AdWords, and if they're lucky, they're making money, but they don't actually know if they are because they are not tracking whether or not it's working. AdWords actually wants you to track or measure performance, because if you don't do that and your business is not having a great month or a great quarter, if you haven't been measuring whether or not AdWords has been effective for you, then you might very well cut that out of your marketing mix to save money, when in fact it could have been a really important driver of revenue for that during that period of time. So Google is going to provide free tools to help you understand whether or not AdWords is resulting in profitability for your company. The easiest way to get set up is something called conversion tracking. And conversion tracking allows you to basically define an action. So let's take a really easy example. Let's say it's an e-commerce site, and you want to see if a click on an ad results in a sale. So what you'll do is you'll take that piece of code and you'll put it on the order confirmation page, the page that means thanks for your order. So when somebody clicks on an ad, and that puts a cookie on the computer, and then they complete the sale, they complete the purchase on the site, they'll hit that confirmation page, which then communicates back to AdWords that, hey, this person who clicked on an ad then bought something on the site. And then that gets recorded in your account. And then the system will tell you basically how much you had to spend to complete that particular sale. So you can say, all right, you can see I spent $10 in AdWords to make a $500 sale. Great, look how much money I made. It can also tell you the reverse. You spent $500 on AdWords to make a $5 sale. And that tells you, okay, well, that's not a good thing. How am I going to make that improvement? And that might be that your keyword just isn't a very good fit. But it's going to help give you some information, some feedback on what's working and what's not working. The other tracking tool that I wanted to mention is something called Google Analytics Goals. This is fantastic. So, GA, Google Analytics, is a topic unto itself. One of my colleagues, his name is Justin Catroni, and he wrote a really fantastic book published by O'Reilly for Google Analytics. And so I would encourage you to check that out. It's a very big topic. But one of the things that you can do with GA is you can actually set up a goal. And it's similar to conversion tracking, except now you can see the funnel. You'll be able to see, okay, if there was a 5-step process for somebody to complete this conversion, how far did they get? Where did they leave? So you'll get a lot more insight into user behavior, visitor behavior on your website. Another nice thing is that you can actually set up a goal through Google Analytics and import that as a conversion in AdWords. So you can use these two pieces together. So here's what I would encourage you all to do. If you're brand new to AdWords, ask yourself this question. Why am I doing this? Why am I spending money? And what do I want to get in return? Then you want to figure out how you're going to be able to track that within your account. And so those are two easy ways to actually do that. On top of that, you get lots of cool benefits like different bidding models, but I only have another 15 minutes, so let's keep going to the last few mistakes. Another important or big mistake that I see people missing is add-ons, easy add-ons. There's one of my favorites is something called ad extensions. And ad extensions are growing and changing. Many of them are at the campaign level, and you're actually able to see, okay, you're able to say, I'm going to add free things into my account that will then make my ads bigger and better than other folks on that are showing on the page. So one of them is called site links. And site links give you the ability to actually show additional links underneath your ad. So these are for ads that show in that top shaded box on the top of the search results page. Those are called top ranked ads. That's how we distinguish them. And it will show up to 6 links underneath. So, I've seen lots of examples. I see REI.com doing it. I see Pottery Barn doing it. I see Cabela's doing it. So if you did a search on, some of these keywords, you would see the advertiser, and then you would see other links below. And each of these could lead the searcher into a different section of that website. So if you know that someone is oftentimes people are interested in the sales section or a different area, a different product or service, you can basically highlight different parts of your site. So now what you're doing is you're taking your ad and you're essentially adding up to 6 additional URLs to it. And when somebody clicks on them, it will count like a click on your ad. But it's a nice, easy way to make your ad stand out. Another one, and this one's so cool, I don't have enough time to really get into it in detail, but I wanted to introduce it to you, is something called call extensions. And I will bet that there are many of you out there who are using AdWords to try to get people to then make a phone call. You want them to call your business because that's how you're going to make the sale. And so what AdWords is doing now is they're introducing the ability to assign a trackable phone number to your ads. So what you'll do is you'll use the call extension. AdWords will assign a trackable number, which will then ring into the phone number that you specify. and you'll be able to see, okay, someone who searched on this search term for this keyword and saw this ad called my business line, and you'll be able to track it that way. So it's a really nice way for you to start seeing whether or not your ads are resulting in those phone calls. There are lots of third-party tools that do that as well, but now we're starting to see that get integrated directly into AdWords, and this will now start impacting your quality score. So there are some big advantages to using the internal call extensions feature. A few more, there is something called location extensions. So if your business has an address that's associated now with a Places account, you can then connect the two accounts, and it will show address information, sometimes a map underneath your ad. Again, a nice way to make your ad stand out on the page. If you're an e-commerce site, you can also use something called product extensions, where you can show thumbnails of your products underneath your ads. To do that, you need something called a Merchant Center account. It's basically a way to populate Google's product search. But if you've ever seen little thumbnails of images with AdWords ads, that's what they're using. It's a product extension. And last but not least is the latest entree is the social extensions. I haven't seen a whole lot of these on actual ads yet, but I expect to see more of them. And this is giving you the ability to show your Google+, your G+ button underneath image ads on the Google Display Network. So if you use the Display Network and you are using image ads, you have the ability to then add that +1 button to the bottom. Okay? Mistake number 9, keeping up to date. I was on YouTube the other day looking at commercials from the 1980s for Gap, just amazed at how much they had changed over the years. And I'll tell you, with AdWords, AdWords changes so frequently. It's not, for some people it's frustrating because you spent all this time, you don't necessarily even like internet advertising, but you took the time and you read the book and you went through the help center, and then you log in next month and everything's different. It looks different, the system's changed, the algorithm calculates things differently. It's just the reality of online advertising that you have to some extent, monitor what's going on so that you can then keep up with it. And then, especially if it's really important to your business, you're going to want to make ongoing education a part of your program. So one easy way to do that is to follow the AdWords blog. It's the official blog that's published, and it'll let you know about any big changes that are rolling around there, and I have the URL there. And if you ever have any questions about anything, the latest changes, or any of the topics that I've talked about so far, the place that I start first is the AdWords Help Center. It's really good. It actually has some nice tutorials and some breakdowns of a lot of the questions, the themes, and the topics and the changes that are rolling through. So I would encourage you to use that. All right, last but not least, I'm very sorry to tell everybody, and I meet people that they're all bummed at the class that they have set up AdWords and they're expecting to retire in the next 6 months. They're going to buy their island and get their margarita and be done with it. Yeah, if you're really lucky, that might be true. But in most cases, AdWords is a nice supplement. It's a nice way to start driving. It can be a very important traffic driver for your business, but you are going to actually have to go in there and keep tabs and monitor this and work on this continuously. So one question I get a lot is, well, how often do I have to do this? Is this every day? Is this every week? Is this every month? And it depends. It depends on what, basically the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out. The more testing, the more tweaking, the more maintenance you do, the more you can expect, and the better your return on investment from this system. So I can't answer that for everybody on how much time this is going to take. There are some clients that check AdWords once a month. There are some that have teams of people managing AdWords all day for their companies. So start by asking yourself, what is it that you are trying to get out of this? And then start to figure out, well, what kind of resources can I assign, whether that's internally or using a vendor. There's a nice handy tool within your account. It's a bit advanced, but I thought I would mention it. It's something called Automated Rules. And this is sort of the entree of bid management software into the AdWords system. So if you're looking to try to make changes quickly, dynamically in your account, you can look at these automated rules as a way to sort of proactively or react to changes within the system. So if it's really important that your ad appear above a particular position or you want your bids to be X, Y, and Z, you can use these automated rules to then make those changes for you. Okay, and those are my top 10 mistakes that I see new advertisers make. And so we have about 8 minutes left. So I wanted to open up the last bit of the webinar for anybody who had any questions for me.
Hi, Stasia. Catherine here. We have a few questions already. Shall I just dive in and give them to you?
Absolutely.
All right. The first one is a personal question. Do you have a Twitter account that people should follow?
Yes, it is Stasia Holdren, S-T-A-S-I-A or Stasia Holdren, H-O-L-D-R-E-N.
Is there any underscore or anything, or just all one word?
Just Stasia Holdren. Okay,
good. And then back on your very first slide when you were talking about a lack of structure, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Mogans. I'm probably not saying that right. Asked, does AdWords have an impact on your rankings and search results?
Okay, so going back to that, we're asking, the attendee is asking, if you use Google AdWords, is this, I'm assuming I'm getting this right, does this impact where you appear on a search results page? And I'm presuming you mean organically. The short answer is no. There are plenty of conspiracy theorists out there who will tell you that, my performance organically is dependent on whether or not I'm advertising. I've never seen that to be true. There can be lots of reasons that, coincidental reasons why your ad may, your website may appear after you start advertising. So sometimes when you launch a new site, there's a sort of a grace period, a waiting period before the organic Googlebot starts indexing that site. So you may use AdWords as sort of an interim measure to help get some exposure on particular keywords initially, and then eventually, assuming your site is readable, Google should start indexing it. But no, if you advertise with AdWords, it's not going to help you and it's not going to hurt you if you stop advertising. One thing I have seen is that AdWords can often operate as an assist. You may have excellent organic presence, but if you also have an AdWords campaign, you're essentially claiming another piece of real estate on that search results page, which helps people notice your business more. So lots of advertisers do both. They advertise and they have good organics. I won't say one is more important than the other. I will say that organics is very, very important, though. So I would tell every business if the internet presence is important to you, you probably want to focus on both.
Okay. All right. So here's another question. According to Google Webmaster Tools, the site links can't be bought. So how is it possible then to get site links as an add-on?
Okay, so there are two things that we've got for if you did a search organically, you see the first search result on an organic search shows those what they're calling site links. That is an organic result, and you can't buy that. You cannot buy organic placement. So it might be actually helpful to pull up a browser here window. So let me actually do screen share. So Catherine, I click screen share, is that correct?
Yes, go to screen share. Now when Stasia starts screen sharing, it will open another window on everyone's screen and it will say Flash Player at the top. So go ahead and do it.
All right. And we're going to launch screen share here. Okay, and I'll hit play.
We'll see.
Let me know if this works.
Okay. It is. Let me see if it is. So I am seeing Google. Is that what?
Okay.
All right.
All right. I'm doing a shameless plug here. So for anybody who is an SEO, my husband's company, which I don't work for, is a company called Raven. It's an SEO marketing tool. So here we see these are paid ads at the top. And then right down here, what I think the person is asking about are these lists of links here. And I'm showing this because I know that they had these. So Raven can't buy these. But what we can do is let's do a search for Cabela's. Let's see if they've got, So Cabela's, these are AdWords site links, which are differentiated from your organic site links. So these are actually set up through the AdWords system. And so you've got your main ad for Cabela's, and now they've said, okay, well, here are 6 other really popular areas of our site, and maybe somebody is actually looking for the ice fishing clearance section. And so these you can buy, these you cannot. Does that clarify?
I think so.
Okay.
Is that clear enough, everyone? Okay. So, oh no, I lost my window. There we go. Sorry about that. All right. So Miguel asks, where can we get templates for landing pages or something that we can look at to guide in the design of it? I don't know. Wow. That's a big question. That
is a big question. All right. So there are a few ways to do this. First of all, I would encourage you to look at other landing pages. One thing that it's helpful, particularly for businesses with a very strapped budgets, is look at advertisers who've got lots of money and see how they're setting it up. You know, there's a lot of testing and tweaking to it. The elements they're essentially, for many cases, the same. You've got your form, you've got your testimonials, you've got videos. Now, you'll constantly be playing with the presentation and the color schemes and the calls to action. But the elements that you have on that page are fairly similar. There is one guy in the industry that knows a lot about landing pages and that I like to follow. His name is Tim Ash. And so you can look at his site. You just Google him. He does lots of material about landing page optimization. So he would be a good resource for doing that. I believe there are some sites that offer some sort of like landing page templates. So you can explore that as well. But I would say, depending on your particular industry, look at what other people are doing. And one little nifty thing with Google is you can actually take see what I'm doing here with Cabela's, and you can see here what their landing page looks like. Now, of course, I could also just click on the ad, but then that would cost Cabela's. But if I was feeling very benevolent at this moment in time, I can just go and look at their landing pages just by doing this. Okay?
Okay, great. All right, so Fernando has a question about his clients. Should he charge his clients a flat monthly fee for managing their ad campaigns or a percentage based on how much they spend on clicks?
Well, I like the flat monthly fee simply because if you're charging them by a percentage, then it's basically in your best interest to spend more money on ads. So from my perspective, it's an easier sell as an agency to say, look, here's a flat monthly rate, or here's the hourly rate, or how you want to structure it. But I generally don't charge based on their ad spend. What I actually prefer to do, and this is entirely a preference, is I use the client's credit cards. So they're actually charged directly by the search engines. So they know exactly what they are paying Google for the privilege of advertising, and then they get a separate invoice from me, and so they also know what I charge for my management fees. But there are lots of different ways to structure that. But I generally avoid the percentage of ad spend.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And Alice has a good question here. Could you comment on best practices on keyword bidding for new advertisers? And she says, I try to use keyword tool, and some high traffic keywords are listed with high bids.
Yes.
Should we really bid $5 a keyword for the ad to show?
And I literally met someone. I met someone about a month ago, and for one of her keywords, she is literally paying $180 for a click, which is just. I've never paid that much for an individual click. I think I'd cry. But it's really across the board. It depends what industry you're in. Some people get clicks for 11 cents, 5 cents. Some people pay $180 for a click. It depends what industry you're in and how important that keyword is to your business, and obviously how much money you stand to make from that click. A lot of agencies are, one strategy that I've heard agencies do is they start off with relatively high bids. And then with those high bids, you can usually get a high position, which starts you off on the right foot and gets you that higher click-through rate because your ads appear higher, and then you can sort of adjust downward from there. You can use, there's a tool built into AdWords called the Traffic Estimator tool. It's not great as far as really giving you a 100% accurate picture about how much traffic you can expect and what you're going to pay. But if you have no idea what you should start by bidding, you could at least use that tool to get a sense of how competitive a particular keyword is. But I would start with a relatively high bid and then go down as I can from there. Now, a bid is separate than a budget. So I'm not suggesting that you want to bid high and then spend, blow thousands of dollars in the first hour. You can start with a relatively low daily budget. So I'm saying, all right, I'm not going to spend more than $100 today, but let's see what I can do if I set a bid of, $6 or $7 or $15 or whatever makes sense. At the end of the day, Google is not setting these prices. It is an auction system. So the price of these keywords is dependent on what other advertisers are willing to pay for those clicks. So if you're unlucky enough to be in a very, very competitive and expensive market, then you may pay quite a bit. So you really want to start going back to that accountability and measurement to make sure that, okay, if I'm going to spend $25 for a click on this ad, I'd better be making a sale. What is my return on investment actually going to come out to be?
Okay, boy, that's sort of scary.
Yes.
All right, we have another question from Ed, who is asking, should I use a city and state in my keywords if I already have it narrowed down to my local area?
I would, because the system is not 100% accurate. And, for example, if I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, but for whatever reason Google can't identify my IP address, or if my IP address incorrectly identifies me, then I'm going to potentially miss that opportunity to see the ad. Now, if I did a search that incorporated, some geolocation keyword as part of that query, then you've got a chance of showing that ad. And Google's official stat is that 1 out of 5 searches include some sort of location-based keyword. So, 20% of your searches are going to have, plus Nashville, plus Tennessee, plus Westmead, or whatever area you live in there. And a lot of times people think, okay, well, if I add Nashville, I'm done. Well, there are actually a million ways to describe Nashville. You can do zip code and area code and airport code and neighborhood lingo and misspellings. So, this list of ways to describe the exact same place can actually become somewhat overwhelming. So, again, this is going back to your keyword list is never done, because now you can basically multiply it by 10 with all of the ways to describe your physical location.
Okay. And I think that's it as far as questions. Any other questions, folks? Because this has been a great presentation. Okay, so Alice says thank you. I've never heard these things explained so clearly before. So
well, thank you. That's what I try to do.
Yeah.
So, and
really
I'll close this up and close this up, I think. And I think if I go back here to the applet here,
push your slides back out there.
Go back to slides, and there it is. So that's me. There's my book.
Okay. And there's the book. And as I said, the book is the deal of the day. Oh, well, Nancy's asking one question. Maybe we should throw it in. How many times should you optimize?
And that's going back into the how often do I need to do this? Is that
too long a question? Or?
No, it's as often as you can. I can't answer that for everybody. It's if you want, every time you want more out of AdWords or you think you can get more out of it, try something. Try an experiment. And a lot of people hate that answer, but you're never done. So, you're running your business as well. So you've got many business owners, all business owners wear a lot of hats. So figure out how much time can I reasonably allot to this particular strategy, and am I making money from it? And if it's profitable for you, you may want to add more time into it. but it's really a bit of trial and error. So optimize as much as possible. How's that for an answer that's not giving you anything specific? As often as you can.
And then one other question. I don't know why I'm not seeing your – okay, there's your slide. Do you have a blog or anything?
And this is, again, what is it, the cobbler and the shoes? I'm going to miss the phrase. So, yes, I have a blog at semtraining.me, and I promise I will continue updating it. I've been so busy working.
I know.
that I'm reading other blogs that I haven't been doing as good a job, but I will keep that up to date for folks.
Okay. All right. We won't keep you any longer. I know you've been very busy this week. So it was a great presentation. Thank you so
very much.
And everyone is posting that in the chat room. So I also want to thank the great group we had today. It was a really good conversation. I always think that adds a lot to the presentation. So thank you, everyone. And I hope maybe we can get Anastasia back in the near future, or Stasia.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Catherine. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.